From the executive producers of The Amanda Show and the network that brought you Tarzan comes 13 episodes of television that, swear to God, changed my life.
Batman's little girl is all grown up. She's running around the streets and beating people up. They were on TV, but they didn't stay. So let's talk now about Birds of Prey.
Welcome to Broken Wings, the unofficial Birds of Prey commentary podcast. My name is Matt Truex, and boy, do I have a show for you today. Now, of course, I like talking to myself, I like talking to my friends, but the main point of this show is to talk to people who are involved with Birds of Prey, whether in front of the camera, behind the camera, sit down with them and get to know the real story of what went on for that show. And today, we talk to just such a person, an actor who was in the thick of it, actually in the trenches for Birds of Prey, even there for the final siege on the clock tower. He tells the story coming up. But first, just a little housekeeping. Attention New Gotham, because Broken Wings is on iTunes. You just have to go to iTunes, type in Broken Wings Podcast, subscribe to it once, and then you're golden for the rest of the series. We've got 2 little comments right now. Thank you very much to whoever wrote those. The rest of you, please keep them coming. I want to see all the comments. I want to read them. I want to absorb them. All the knowledge and feedback you're giving me, I just want it. I crave it. So please leave comments on iTunes. Also, Broken Wings, as always, is on Facebook and Twitter. On Facebook, it's just Broken Wings Podcast, the unofficial Birds of Prey commentary podcast. Find us, like us. I'm posting stuff up there all the time, so just check it out. Also, on Twitter, it's at Broken Wings Pod. I'm tweeting there pretty regularly as well. And of course, you can always check the site, brokenwingspodcast.com. But now on to today's guest, our first cast member guest. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He started, of course, you all remember him on 90210 as Student back in the day. Since then, he's had memorable roles. He was Vampire Jape, Cyborg Adam's little lackey on Buffy. He was Richard Code on Felicity for many years. In Waiting, he played Calvin, the guy who had a fear of peeing in public. Notably, these days, he's Chuck Shirley on Supernatural, the man who may or may not be God. Also, a man of many talents, he's frontman for the band Loud and Swain, which we're going to hear about in just a second in our interview. But all those many roles aside, nothing will ever compare in my mind to his work as Gibson Kafka over at No Man's Land in Birds of Prey. The guy who was tending bar all those times, desperately in love with Huntress, who wasn't. He wound up being Harley's lackey at the end of the show. I mean, this guy was in the thick of it. He's in 4 out of 13 episodes, which is pretty good stats, really, for a recurring character. And I got to sit down for a phone interview with the man behind all those roles and more, Robert Patrick Benedict. Very excited to have him on. He was so nice with his time. Whether you just know Rob from Birds or any of his other projects, we get to touch on a lot of it, even what his first play was. Quick disclaimer though, as it was a phone interview, it was one of the few days in the year that it rains in Los Angeles. The quality isn't that great. I did what I could with it, so just bear with it, turn it up. Best to listen to it on headphones. There are times where we kind of talk over each other just because there's a little delay with the app that I was using to record it all. But it's still pretty great. But without any further ado, let's jump right into my interview with Gibson Kafka himself, Rob Benedict.
Rob?
Yep.
Hey, okay, cool. So we're up and rolling now.
Okay, cool.
Obviously, this is a Birds of Prey thing, which I've been a fan of forever. But like as a kid, I was like 12 years old and a big Batman fan, so I was the perfect age, you know.
Oh, that's great.
But I thought we'd start a little bit with your past and your history and other jobs and stuff, and then go into Birds of Prey, if that's all right with you.
Right, yeah, sounds great.
Okay, cool. So you were born in Missouri, right?
Yeah, I was born in Missouri. In Columbia, Missouri, where the University of Missouri is. So it's a college town. It was one of those towns like Austin, Texas, where, you know, in the middle of a state that's fairly conservative, there's this town that's really liberal and gets a lot of art and stuff. And so we, you know, I acted a lot. My parents were involved in community theater, so I acted a lot in community theater.
Oh, see, that was a question I had, whether it was a right-away acting thing, if that was your path right away, or if you kind of found it later on or not.
Right. No, pretty much at a young age. I mean, there's a college there called Stevens College, and I was like 12 years old, and they did a play called The Winslow Boy, and they asked me to play the Winslow Boy, which is the lead in the play, and that was kind of where I got the bug, you know, and really from that age on, that's what I wanted to do.
And what is The Winslow Boy about?
Winslow Boy is it's a British play by Terence McNally, I want to say. Anyway,
you would know better than I at this point.
They just on Broadway. They just recently revived it, like last year. But it's a boy at a private school gets accused of a crime, but the crime's like stealing something. He didn't kill anybody or anything, but he stole something and he gets accused of it and he didn't do it. And so it's about. It's not a great pitch, but it's a really good play. But this is the lawyer that comes in and he's like the only one that believes the boy. Nobody else would believe him, and he goes to trial for him. And
Okay.
It was really.
That's you're again, fine. I put you on the spot with the pitch. You're good. Not
great on paper, but it was really fun to do. But so then I did community theater, and then I graduated when I was 18. I went right to Northwestern in Chicago and was a theater major there. So,
and we're going to get into it in a second, but that's kind of where Loud and Swain started, right?
Yeah. So went to Northwestern, and then when I got out here, I sort of through school met the guys, a lot of the guys that are in the band, and
okay, cool.
Sort of met them through other school connections, but I didn't know them when I was actually in school.
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, Mike, the bass player, was in grad school there, so we didn't know each other. But then we got out here, and a mutual friend introduced us.
And you already had that, you didn't know each other, but you had that history with it at least.
Exactly.
Oh, cool,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So when did you move out into the Los Angeles area?
So 93. As soon as I graduated from college, I got in a car and drove out right away.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you get out here and there's, you've got nothing. I literally everything I owned fit in my car, and I started waiting tables and
it sounds very familiar. See, my path was tour guiding at WB. That was the.
Oh really?
Yeah, that was the first jump in for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So funny.
Wow.
Okay, so you're out here in '93. What do you consider? I'm sure you're acting as you're waiting tables. What do you consider to be like the first big break? What was the one where you're like, okay, this could work out for a little while?
I had a bunch of false breaks. I was waiting tables, and I got this part in this movie that was going to shoot in Romania called Hidden World, and it was like,
oh my.
and I was a half plant, half person. It was like
sure.
It was right like you do. It was a sci-fi thing, and I quit my job, and this is it. I was made the big time, and literally the day before we were supposed to leave, they lost funding, and the movie never happened.
See, I would have killed to see that.
I know. So then I went back to work, and then I got this play, and so that was kind of a big deal. But really, my first job was I got a part on the first 90210.
I saw that on your MDB. I'm like, wow, this guy goes back. Okay.
Yeah, I go back. Yeah, I mean, it was a co-star role. It's a one-day part. Jason Priestley directed the episode, and but it felt like it made the big time. And I couldn't quit my job or anything. By that point I was delivering packages. I was like a delivery guy, and so it literally worked in the morning, got off at 1, and then I went back to delivering packages. So
that's bizarre.
Yeah, but so I had a lot of little guest stars, little things like that, and I did commercial work, but really for me the significant break was when I got this part on Felicity.
Right, that went a while, right? You were
my
series regular at the time, or
I
was
recurring. Yeah, I was recurring, but I was in three quarters of the episodes, and that lasted for 4 years.
And obviously Felicity was a big thing, and
yeah,
I'd imagine opened a few doors for you, right?
It did. It really did. And that's where I finally got to quit my job and do this full time, and it did. It was a real game changer.
Because from there, man. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, NYPD Blue, NCIS. Right. These are just a few that happened. It seems really quickly after that.
Yeah. And part of it is getting work begets more work, but the other thing is once you are working, you start to get just a feel for how it's supposed to go, and
sure,
you get more comfortable. But yeah, I think getting the thing on Birds of Prey was directly related to Felicity too. I always thought that having.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because you look at a certain point, it seems, in your past, and it's like, okay, these are all WB shows. I wonder if everybody's watching everybody else's work, and
I think that has something to
pop up every once in a while.
Yeah, definitely. That had something to do with it, and that was the age I was. It fit right into what the WB then was.
For sure.
Audience was, and so I mean, I was sort of the nerdy guy on WB shows, or whatever.
But I mean, too, like especially with we'll get into Supernatural at some point too, I'd imagine. But but with those shows, with Birds of Prey and Supernatural especially, you kind of seem to be the voice of the audience guy. Like in Birds of Prey, you're making references to like '66 Batman, even with the Shakespeare bust in the bar there.
Yeah.
You're in love with Huntress because everyone watching the show is in love with Huntress. And
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's funny, and that was, even my part on Felicity was like, I was the annoying guy down the hall who would basically tell Felicity, like, what I really thought of her. A lot of, like, hardcore Felicity fans really didn't like my character because I was like, I don't buy it. I'd like, talk to her face like, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying what you're doing. And that kind of started that whole kind of character thing. But yeah, I do. It's funny. I've a handful of roles that I played have been that guy, and I love that. That's especially the Birds of Prey was that way, and Chuck on Supernatural was that way. I love sort of being the voice of the audience.
And obviously, the Chuck character has taken off a little more than your Birds of Prey character did.
Well, yeah.
Happy for you. Is that the Supernatural character? Is Chuck the one that you're most recognized for now, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends.
Or...
Yeah, I mean, it really depends where I am, but yeah, I mean, certainly, I mean, Supernatural has this huge fandom, and they've, there are conventions we do, and I mean, I'm certainly, I make, appearances at these conventions and stuff like that, so, yeah, I'd say Supernatural. I mean, there's a whole Waiting audience out there that are fans of this movie Waiting that I did, and
myself included.
Oh, cool. So yeah, you can, it just kind of depends, where you are. Some people don't, Supernatural's a funny show because a lot of people don't even know it's still on the air. But the people that watch it love it.
But like, you were in what was supposed to be the last episode, and then all of a sudden it keeps going.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it really is. It's remarkable what the fans of that show have done. Like, really created it, made it into this thing more than just what the show is. It's this whole other world online.
Sure.
And so, but and Birds of Prey might have had that if we were a little more in the computer age. I mean, really, we didn't have.
It was just the birth of it too. I feel like.
Yeah, we didn't have.
Like, it was the first show that got me online personally, and I feel like it was still so early. You'd go around and there was only so much that you could get to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of shows. I mean, early on, I was on a lot of shows that just didn't last very long. Threshold didn't last very long, and now you have shows that, people. I mean, the fans of Supernatural have kept that show on the air.
It's amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And so, if Birds of Prey had Twitter or Facebook, it might have been a different story.
Instead, it's got a podcast. 10 years later,
we got this. We're keeping it alive.
Absolutely. You mentioned going to conventions and whatnot. I've got to say, your Supernatural convention episode was eerily familiar to me. It reminded me of the first convention I went to in like a sad little hotel in the middle of Pennsylvania. Has that been like a life imitating art type of thing for you? Had you been going to conventions before that for a reason?
No, I had not been to a Supernatural convention before that, and personally, I hadn't been to a convention. The only thing I'd been to is more like video game conventions.
Okay.
But so I hadn't. So that was new to me, and then that show aired, and the next weekend after it aired, I went to my first convention. So it was really that really was screwed with my head. Like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Now it's real now.
Yeah, it's real now. So it was in Chicago, and it really felt like that scene at the beginning of that episode when I walk on stage and I have a bottle of water and I'm all nervous.
Yep.
That's kind of what it felt like in real life too.
Now, hopefully there's more than 20 extras in that room though for you.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's much more. It's 1,000 people, and 90% women. That's the other thing. I don't know if people realize that 90% of that audience is women.
I remember that being a surprise to me the first time I went to convention, too. And I'm like, it's not just dudes here, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it gets to the point where we were even like, if there is a guy in the audience, we're like, hey, a guy.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Someone else who's brave enough to come out here. Good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that you're a guy that I can put this question on the interview notes for. But
yes.
In the supernatural realm, are you God?
It's a good question. The shorter answer is yes. It was meant to be that Chuck was supposed to be God. But the longer answer really is that Eric Kripke, the creator of the show, he called me after that episode, and he was like, how does it feel to be God? Because I didn't know. I really didn't know. It didn't say in the script, oh, and by the way, he's God. Those.
Right.
But everyone was kind of interpreting it that way, and I said,
you have the one shirt on, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I guess it feels okay, And he said, look, if fans ask you if you're God, just let them. I would rather them interpret it however they want to interpret it. But Benedict, my opinion is that Chuck was Eric Kripke. So I mean, it was a manifestation of Eric. And when Eric left the show, which was the end of that season,
right?
His final episode. That was his final episode. He wrote in my goodbye as sort of his love letter to the show.
Oh, see, that's very cool.
Yeah, and so in the sort of super universe of the show, you say Chuck is God because he created the show. Eric is God of Supernatural because he created it. But within the mythology of the show itself, people have questions about, well, if you're God, then how come this and this and this? I can't answer all of that because it doesn't necessarily make sense.
I promise you, I won't get into that.
No, but just in the super mythology of the show, and just sort of the show itself. If you look at it as just a television show, then yes, Chuck is the God of that.
Then absolutely. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
See what happens when a show runs for more than 13 episodes?
I know.
So much into it. And before we jump into Birds of Prey, I have to say, when you said you'd do this interview, I started researching you, of course, and I found Loudon Swain. I downloaded, I swear to God, I bought on iTunes the Eskimo album. It is fantastic, man. There's a run of songs in that album that I just keep going over the same ones over and over again, with Mama's Jam and She Waits in January and Gamma Ray.
Awesome.
I've woken up humming them. For people that haven't heard any of it, what is what would you say is the pinnacle Loudon Swain song that you're if you check this out, if you dig it, go for the rest of it?
I think Eskimo off of that record is a very
absolutely
quintessential Loudon Swain song. Gamma Ray too, very quintessential Loudon Swain. I mean, they're fun songs with a heart. There's lyrics that are interesting to listen to.
They seem like songs too that would be great in a concert setting as well.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of energy.
Yeah, ones where you guys could really let go.
Yes, exactly, and we do.
Cool.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of jumping around in the live shows. The album before that, there's a song Pop Tart Heart. What's that?
And there's a kazoo element to your show?
Yes. So in the album before that one, A Brand New Hurt, there's a song called Medicated, and when we play it live, it's not even like that on the album, but when we play it live, there's a kazoo solo, and fans have begun bringing their own kazoos to the shows. So during the kazoo solo, they kazoo along with us.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
So you've got even the interactive element. See that?
Yes, an interactive element for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you the main songwriter?
Well,
I'm sure it's collaborative, but
yeah, it's collaborative. I mean, the way a lot of our songs start, they'll start with just me. I've written a song with a guitar and vocals, and then I'll bring in the guys, and we all rearrange it. And really, so the music is written by all of us, and I write the lyrics.
Oh, very nice. And as an occasional songwriter myself, I mean, when I put this together, you'll hear the sad little theme song I've made for this podcast. But,
great.
What keeps you going with it? 'Cause maybe I wrote half a dozen songs in the past 4 years, and I write a lot, but it's just not something that ever comes to me so so freely. How do you keep going? I mean, you guys have done 4 albums now.
Yeah. I don't know. Just, the other guys really inspire me a lot, and, knowing that there are people out there that really like the music, that inspires you. You start writing for people, and just, I always just draw on my own, life experiences, and just things just keep happening that sort of just keep my interest peaked in it all, and a new...
Keep translating lyrics for you. That's cool.
Yeah, so, it keeps coming, and, every time we sit down to write a new album, I'm like, I wonder what's in me, but it's always good. It's always really inspiring. We just finished a new record. It's being mastered right now, so it'll be out in about a month.
Oh, awesome.
Really excited about that, yeah.
And what's it called?
It's called Sky Alive.
Sky Alive. And that's out in April or end of March?
It'll be out in April. We'll have it available for pre-order starting at the beginning of March.
Oh, great.
And then, it'll be on iTunes and loudandswain.com.
I was going to say, I'm sure they can... Okay, there you go, loudandswain.com.
Yeah, LOUDENSWAIN.
Are there any live shows coming up to promote that, or?
Well, let's see. We're going to Vegas actually the second week of March there's a Supernatural convention, and
cool.
we're going to play it. They're going to play it at that.
Nice.
And then we're going to have a Stage It show. I don't know if you've heard of StageIt.com,
no.
but it's where it basically provides a place where bands can play live shows for the internet audience. So we'll play, and people around the world can tune in and watch us on StageIt.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so we're going to
have... can go to, I'm guessing, loudandswain.com and Stage It to see...
Yes, and
when that's happening?
Yeah, and that's at the end of March. That's actually March 29th. And then that same day at night, the Stage It show's at 3, and then and then at night, at 8 o'clock that night, we have a gig here in Los Angeles.
Cool.
Angeles. Yeah.
So all promoting the new album and stuff?
Yeah, and that'll be the gig in Los Angeles on the 29th at the Dragonfly. That'll be the first time we, locally will play all the new songs.
Ooh, at the Dragonfly, too. Good call.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you guys have done this all without a label? Am I correct? Or you started with that?
Yeah. We do it all ourselves. Our label is called 3 Car Records. And yeah, we do it all ourselves. I mean, again, 10 years ago, you wouldn't necessarily been able to do that, but now, the way it is now, it's a little bit more of the norm, and
sure.
And
I'm sure it gives you guys a little more control of how you're presented to your fans too.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's
very cool.
when the audience is there, it makes it easier, But yeah, just online, it gives you just such a platform to put out your own stuff.
Yeah, it's almost a first choice anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. More bands are doing it. Radiohead does it that way, and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, happy to hear that there's a 5th album coming out for sure.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. Really excited about it.
Cool. Okay, so this being Broken Wings, the unofficial Birds of Prey podcast.
Yes,
I think
sir.
it's time we jump into Birds of Prey, if that's okay for you.
That's fine.
So when, obviously, you were out here working, like we talked about, you were on a bunch of the WB shows and whatnot.
Yeah.
When did you first hear of Birds? Like, with the buzz around town, or just a call from your agent, or?
Yeah, it was, well, let's see, the show, I think it just started, and I got a call about, about an audition, and so, I went in and auditioned for it, and I remember it was, they had said it was going to be a recurring role, so there were a lot of people there, it was like one of those things, and I remember it being in the room at my audition and just really having fun with it, really playing to the comedy of the character, and
because you're the one that's there to get the outright laugh too.
What's that?
Your character always seemed to be the guy who's there definitely to get a laugh,
Yeah. Again, and like you said, it's sort of the voice of the audience, and I really, I really got that, and I loved that he was sort of like kind of embraced the freaks, that he was like,
yeah, absolutely,
the king of the geeks or whatever. Like
the point where you've got the metahuman bar. One of my favorite moments of yours is when Barbara Gordon comes in, and you kind of give her a it's cool that you're here look, but I'm also upset because you're not a freak like me.
Exactly. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, and it was just one of those things. I got the role, and that was that, and it was.
And it being a comic book, obviously related show, and Batman comics and Birds of Prey comics at the time, are you kind of bummed that it's an original character, or are you excited because obviously you've got a whole new way that you could go with it?
Yeah, it's both. I mean, it would always be fun to play sort of some iconic character, but yeah, I mean, I was excited to that I could take it a new way and do whatever I want, and really that's what it was in the audition, sort of like even from just the audition, like going in and just trying anything.
Sure.
And it just so happened that what I was doing, the vision I saw for the character was kind of what they were seeing too. So,
and
yeah,
thankfully, because I mean, you wound up in, I mean, it's hard to say, but you wound up in a third of the show. I think you become like the fourth bird, basically. You're in there all the time.
Yeah. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. And even the last episode, I remember that that was they knew they were canceled, and that was kind of a bummer. But it was fun we were all kind of rallying together at that point, and it was fun to be there for that and be such a big part of that. The whole.
Yeah, that was a question I had, whether it was everyone's just kind of mad the whole time, or if it's like, well, if we're going out, let's go out with a bang.
Yeah, I think that was the idea, and we all knew it too. Like they were going to go out with a bang, they were going to destroy the set.
Yep. Which
and
was just the defining moment of my childhood, I think, when those two came in, and then you started climbing up there, and I'm like, this is amazing. Why did they cancel this?
I know. It was crazy, and I remember, and my character loses his mind, and,
I mean, when you get a script like that, where you're, I'm sorry, you're batshit crazy the whole time, are you excited, or you're like, how am I going to
I was everything. I was excited. I remember being a little bit nervous, like, wait, what now? But yeah, so yeah, it was everything. I remember like, okay, how am I going to do this,
Yeah. I imagine it's just scary to keep that up the whole episode. And I mean, I'm sure some of it's scripted, but was any of that improv too? I mean, you're babbling for a while.
Yeah, it was a lot improv. I remember they said just, go for it, And again, that
any strange reference that bumps into your head, just go.
Just go. Yeah, and that really was. I mean, there were things like, suddenly Gibson's acting like a monkey up on the, on the scaffold.
Yeah, your King Kong moment.
Right. But
and you act like, Harley Quinn treats you like a puppy the entire episode, and it's kind of cute. Like, I would totally watch the Gibson and Harley show,
Totally. I wish you could do that. And Mia Sara, she was awesome. I remember, for me, Ferris Bueller was one of my favorite movies.
Oh, the same. But it took me 3 episodes of watching the show to be like, oh wait, that's Ferris's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So and by that point, I felt comfortable with her, and I was asking her about doing that movie, and
oh, cool.
Just really taken with her. She was really cool too.
Yeah, she is also, I think, basically the only other character besides you who's actually allowed to get a laugh from the show.
Yes. Yeah.
And you two just seem to have so much fun in the episode. Definitely getting also the best written of the scenes in it too. Just you guys get to be crazy, and she gets to be evil, and you get to be scared of it. But it's so much fun to watch. Yeah. No, it really was. It was. I think we were talking a lot, on the set, and I think that went into it. It made me feel more comfortable too, because it's always a little bit, okay, wait, I'm basically dragged around on a leash and losing my mind, and so it made me feel safe. But and doing it on the show that just got canceled, so that can't help either.
Exactly. But that was fun. It was super fun, and and again, I liked the idea of when he lost his mind. I kind of liked that idea that he was, kind of short circuiting, and and he was this guy who could feel everything, and he could feel everything, and so it was just, again, just inventing it in my head. It was kind of a fun exercise to do,
especially for a guy who can't forget anything too.
Right. Exactly.
Which is, Gibson Kafka. It's a pretty Kafka-esque thing, but I
Yeah.
mean, and another reason too why you're a great conduit to the fans. I mean, like, I feel like any good fan superpower is to not forget anything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
So obviously you're in the last episode, which still remains, I think, a favorite of mine. You were in the first one you were in, I think, was the third episode. At least the third episode aired. So was there a feeling on set of excitement for the show at the time, or were things already going downhill behind the scenes?
No. My first episode, it was still going up.
Sure.
Didn't really know. It definitely had a lot coming in. It had a lot behind it. Like, it got a lot of press. I think that WB had really high hopes of what the show could be. They wanted to be a new Buffy. And so when I got on, there was still that vibe, and I remember just in creating, and the first scene I shot was the one. I'm like on a ladder in the store.
Oh, your actual first scene, yeah.
Yeah, my actual first scene, right. And we took a long time just to shoot that because we wanted to just define who Gibson was and what we wanted the tone to be, what we wanted me to sound like, and that kind of thing. So, on a new show, that's always kind of the fun part of, like, you're molding it for the first time. And so, yeah, there's definitely that. There was a lot of time taken.
Okay, cool. So there was care being taken. That's good to know.
Yeah, for sure. And then, is that the episode, too, where there's something on the roof? It's like a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one where you kind of get in the fray and go there, and the guy jumps off the roof.
Yeah. And that took a lot of time to shoot that, and so they're very meticulous there at the beginning.
Now, does that fall away by the time that we're crashing through the clock tower, or?
Yeah, that was falling away. That was falling away by then. I mean, by then, literally actors are looking for their next job.
Sure.
And everybody's sort of, kind of moving on. But we went out with a bang, and it was, fun to shoot. That last segment was still fun to do.
No, absolutely. And now you've been on, obviously, a bunch of successful shows, and like you said, Threshold, some not so much, unfortunately. When did the vibe change for Birds? Do you remember at the time coming back for an episode and going like, oh, something's not right here?
It was towards the end. I mean,
and again, I'm sorry for making you think back like 11 years.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah, it's being recurring. You come in, you're like, you can always sense, okay, things are going well or things are going not so well, because you've been gone a couple episodes and you come back to like, oh, okay, what's going on? So if I did 4 episodes, so maybe the third episode, that's the one where the mother.
I think that's, I guess so.
Sins of the Mother?
Yes, with Lori Loughlin.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, right around then I could sense maybe some trouble. But again, no one was phoning it in. I mean, I remember.
Oh no, I would never accuse actually anybody on the show. Even like you said, go out with a bang. They kept it all.
You're right, and I remember. Yeah, I remember Laughlin she was awesome, and really, everyone sort of did their best, and at all times. I think Pray for the Hunter was really the one that, I came in and it was like, oh, okay, we're going out, but people were still working hard, and I mean, like on Threshold even we did 13 episodes, but they only aired 9, and I think by the time we were shooting the 13th, I think it was already gone, not even on the air.
Oh wow!
So by that time, like we're doing the best we can, but it's hard to be motivated.
Absolutely.
But I didn't feel that way for this last episode. It was because what we were doing was pretty challenging and physically challenging.
Yeah, I bet.
You had to sort of show up for it. So it almost felt more like a play, It felt like a play.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it's like when you're doing a TV show and it's on the air and it keeps going and you're working hard and then once it's done you're looking at the next script and you're thinking what's next, and by this time it's canceled.
Mm-hmm.
They know it's done, and it's like we're putting on a big show that.
Wow, just for one audience.
For one audience, and that's
wow.
and that's the end of your song, and you take your bow and leave. So it felt more like that.
Wow, I never would have thought of it like that, but
yeah.
But well put. When did you hear about the cancellation? Were you around on set, or did you come back in knowing like, okay, this isn't going to last much longer?
I feel like I knew before I went in to do the last episode. I knew it was over, and that was it. And that was their final episode, and that was how they were going to do it. I can't remember where, if it's like they told me, or I'm sure that like my manager told me, or like we knew it was, people know, it was common knowledge.
And I remember too at the time, like on the internet, you couldn't go through one article without hearing like a cancellation fear,
Yeah, and still, but so I knew, and I knew that was going to be the last script, but again, when you're recurring, it's almost like you don't have. It's not like it's. It's always a kind of a bonus thing. You go in, you're doing a new episode, and that's fun to do. So it's still kind of excited to go in, as opposed to when you're a regular on a show and it gets canceled. It's kind of a knife in the heart, You
sure.
Say, this is my baby, and now it's, But like for me as a recurring character, I was like, oh, cool. I love that I get to go back in and sprinkle it with
this
some
is going to end, but at least I get to be there for the ending.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. And we've talked about the final fight a little bit, but it was just such a moment for me watching it of like, this is what this show could be. I mean, you said less time was taken at that, but how long did that take to shoot?
It was. So it wasn't that we took less time with it at the end. It's that they weren't quite as meticulous with things like character choices at the end as they were at the beginning. But that took a lot of time to shoot that whole thing. I want to say like it was a long day and night. We ended really late that night.
Oh wow!
Shooting, the clock tower stuff, because there were a lot of effects and things going on, and there were a lot of angles to get to,
And I imagine you only get one shot of that glass breaking.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So that was big deal, and and I remember like you shoot kind of a master shot, and I remember being up there doing my like King Kong thing, but like it not being my shot yet, but I still had to kind of do it off camera.
That was a question too, because I rewatched it before our interview the other day, and I'm like, he's still back there. Like, wow.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like there the whole time,
holding that stupid Batgirl doll and waving it around.
Exactly. Oh my God. And so then they didn't get to my close up until later, and I was like, okay, it's the King Kong shot, So yeah, no, it was a long day. But
very cool.
Yeah.
And I really don't want to keep you too long because you've been so great with your time.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you doing this, Matt. I really do. And
my pleasure.
Hopefully many more podcasts to come, but this is a highlight so far. Man.
Oh, cool.
Any final thoughts on the show? Like something I forgot to ask. Were you a comic book fan to begin with, or?
I was a comic book fan, but I knew all the basics. I didn't know, like even this, I didn't know a lot about Birds of Prey. Like, but I always like Batman and and Superman are really, honestly, just the basics. And then, really later in life, and after I did this, I've gotten more into it. I actually wrote a movie, a short called The Sidekick, that's basically about a superhero sidekick who loses his job. It's basically like Robin at 40, and he's got no real superpowers himself, and his boss fires him because he's just not cutting it anymore. And what is he supposed to do with his life? He can't. He has no powers. So,
what a great idea.
Yeah, it's called The Sidekick. It's going to be released pretty soon. It's a 30-minute movie, and we've got great people. Ron Livingston plays my superhero boss, and Lizzie Kaplan, and all these great people are in it.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Where is that? Is that going to be online, or how are you guys releasing that?
It just got. We just got a distributor. And it'll be online. I'm not sure like where yet, but like, iTunes, Netflix, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And Yeah, and if people want to find out more about it, the sidekickproject.com has, a trailer and all the information. We basically just spent a year playing festivals. So, yeah.
Very excited to see this.
Yeah. It's right up your alley. So, really, before I did that, I got even more sort of into comic books and really sidekicks and, the history of the sidekick.
The sidekicks, the redheaded stepchildren of comics.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, in terms of other thoughts about this, I run into Ashley Scott every once in a while. I haven't in a long time though, but but I think about this show as like a really cool little moment. It was, it didn't last very long, but it was like a moment where I spent a lot of time with these people, and it was fun. I'm always appreciative of people even knowing it, and occasionally at these supernatural conventions, someone will come up with a Birds of Prey DVD, and I'm always like, wow, really? And, other people don't even know, what was that?
Other people bought those? That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm always wishing, hoping to run into other people that, I worked with on the show, like Mia, Dina, I haven't seen in years. So, I think about them. But so I'm happy you're doing this. Happy you're keeping it alive.
Oh God, it's a beautiful little gem of the Batman universe that just gets, it just came and went too quickly. But I think it's worth remembering, and very, very satisfying to hear that you do too. So thanks very much, man.
Absolutely.
So there you go, New Gotham. My interview with Rob Patrick Benedict. Not only a guy who is in the thick of it, there acting, but a guy who still has love for the show all these years later. I cannot thank Rob enough for taking the time out of his day to talk with me. Even though it was over the phone and we had connection problems and whatnot, he was a trooper. He was a great sport about it. Glad we got to talk about so much of the stuff he's working on, but of course, especially his work on birds. Just talking to him about the Siege on the Clock Tower was so cool. Also, please be sure to check out links to all of his upcoming projects. LavinSwain.com, the online concert coming up, the Sidekicks coming out really soon. They've been doing a big social media push for that, so please check it all out. You can find it in the links section at brokenwingspodcast.com. But that'll about do it for the show today. Again, please like us on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, find us on the site. You can always find me at Birds of Prey Online. I'm Hawk with an E there. But like the show, leave comments. Also, let me know who you want to hear an interview with next. Obviously, I can't promise anything, but I'm doing my best to try to get as many people involved with Birds of Prey as possible. So let me know who you want to hear on the show next. So thanks again very much for listening. A special thanks again to Rob for sitting down and taking the time to talk with me. Look forward to episode 4 very soon. And remember, whether you're crashing through the clock tower or just tending bar over at No Man's Land, the Oracle is watching.